Hello my fellow admins and welcome back to another episode of Jira Guides. Void.admin here, and today in this video I'm going to show you how you can fix the issue with start or complete sprint button from your Jira board. So let's get into it. So as you can see here on my screen, this complete sprint button is basically unusable because it's grayed out. You cannot actually press it, right? So this is like the core issue that we want to resolve here with this video. So at the end of the day, the sole issue with not having your complete sprint button or start sprint button there is because you lack permissions, right? That user or you yourself lack permissions in order to actually action that button, right? So everything on a Jira project is based on a permission scheme, right? So this exact permission, it's found in the permission scheme, right? So in order to troubleshoot this step, we actually have in this video multiple steps that you can go through in order to see if completing that step will resolve this issue of having this complete sprint or start sprint button shown, right? So what you're going to do here is basically I have a test with a user that doesn't have permissions of a start/complete sprint, right? So for example, I need to minimize this, and here I'm on this admin account, and in this project we have this board sprint 1, right? And I can see this complete sprint button because I'm admin and I have full permissions on this project, right? But in order to fix for the other user that we had here, for also this user to be able to see complete sprint, we need to go first into the permission. So this is the first troubleshoot step in multiple steps that you want to go through when you want to troubleshoot this kind of issue, right? So you just go here in project settings, click on project settings, and now you have on the left side of this settings panel of a project, you have this permission, right? So you just simply click permissions, and now here you have the permission scheme that is attached to this project, right? So here we have a bunch of stuff, but what is interested for us is basically this start/complete sprint. So this is basically the permission that will give you this ability to have that button not grayed out, or the start sprint button not being grayed out, to be able to press it, right? So in order for this specific one, the first thing that you need to do is to see if you are giving to the user this start/complete sprint permission to see if this will resolve the issue, right? And for this, you just go here in actions, edit permissions, and here you just simply need to scroll down, and at this point here, start/complete sprints, you click on this edit, and now you're just simply giving that user the permission from this one, because as you can see, this is only the project role administrators that have access to this one, right? So I'll just give for the application user any logged in user, and I just grant the permission, and now any logged in user in this Jira environment has access to this project where they want to start or complete a sprint, right? So now if we go back in the other window, now if I'm refreshing this one, you can see, voila, that the issue has been resolved, because that was the simplest troubleshoot, because this is like the first step. On the first step, you're just checking to see if in the permission of that project, that user actually has this start/complete sprints. So if you are giving to the user or yourself this permission in the permission scheme, and this doesn't resolve the issue, the next step that you can do, based on also what Atlassian says in all their troubleshoot documentation, is to see if giving manage sprints permission to that user will actually also resolve this issue with the button, right? Because this will actually give you the permission, but maybe there's the core issue with that button not be able to be shown to that user because he is not in manage sprints. So the next step in the troubleshoot session or steps that you want to go through is to also give, besides start and complete sprint, to give the user manage sprints, right? So now you have the thing where you're also giving manage sprints permission to the user, and see if that will resolve the issue. So this is the second step that you want to go through in these troubleshoot steps. So these first two steps were kind of simpler, because you just need to check the permission scheme that is attached to that project, and this is only like a permission thing, right? But the next step that you want to go through is more in depth, right? So for example, you just need to go into back into the board, right? Because this is the start of this issue being recognized by the user, right? Like they cannot see this complete sprint button because it's grayed out, right? So if you follow the previous steps that I mentioned, and that if that doesn't resolve the issue is a bit more complex, right? And it goes more and more complex when we are getting through more and more steps, right? But we don't have many steps, by the way. So now what you want to do is basically check the configuration of that specific board, because we get through the filter of that JQL board, right? So now when you are going to the board in active sprints, you have this board where this complete sprint button is not shown, right? So now you want to go into the board configuration. So you have this board, you just click on it, and now you have this configure board. You just click on this again. And now we are in the board configuration, and as you can see, we have this section general and filter, right? And this general and filter will also give us the state filter that was configured by the administrator of that board, right? So now in this filter, we have edit filter query. And if we click it or we just open it a new tab, we have it here, the filter that is attached to that board, right? So this filter will conclude all the results of issues that are found in that filter, which is actually like the board, right? And now what we want to do is to simply check the JQL, because so in the first steps, we needed to check the permissions in that project for that user, right? And you check that and he has the permission of complete or manage sprints, right? Start / complete sprints or manage sprints. And what you want to check now if you want to see basically if this board is actually sharing another project, because in the JQL of that board you can actually fetch issues from another project. So in this case we only have issues fetched from project Scrum, but maybe we have something like this. We either have project Scrum or project, let's say project, I think it's test. Yes, project test, right? So now we search it, right? And we either have issues from Scrum or test project, right? I don't know if I have, let me check. It's actually TP, not test. So this is TP, which I have one issue. So now you can see from 49, it's 50 issues because we have one issue that was attached to this filter from the other project, right? So you need to check to see if that JQL actually has multiple projects mentioned in that JQL, because you need to give the permission of manage sprints or start / complete sprints to all projects for that particular user that cannot see that start or complete sprint button, right? Because the sole issue here is with the permission, but it's not based on one project permission, can be with multiple projects permission if the JQL that has been attached to that board has multiple projects in it, right? So this is the third step that you want to check in these troubleshoot steps to see if the JQL of that board has multiple projects mentioned in that JQL. And now going to the next step, it gets more and more complicated, right? Because if this will also not resolve your issue, this means that this is like a more complex issue, right? So if we go through the page from Atlassian because this is like a known issue where people cannot see this board, right? So what you want to do is to basically check this. You see this knowledge base. This is basically from Atlassian. This is like an official documentation where they go through each problem that you can face when you cannot see this, like you cannot manage a sprint, you cannot start, you cannot complete it, right? So if we scroll a bit down here, we'll see an interesting issue, which I faced a lot, honestly, in this issue where users are actually complaining that they cannot see the button. So this goes down to the complexity of that JQL filter, right? So each board, as I said, has a JQL filter behind it, right? And if people do not have the it's not correct. They don't have the knowledge of actually building that JQL because they don't actually know it. They can create a complex filter where the board cannot actually return any results, or you can actually break this start/complete sprint button, right? So what this says is basically, we also have like an example here at the bottom, right? But the JQL is so complex that it cannot return issues because we have either multiple 10,000 of issues, or it's like it cannot return the base of that JQL, which are the results of the issues, right? So if we can see here in the example, it's like pretty easier to understand. Here we have the example of project Scrum and issue type story, right? This is the part of the JQL. But now this JQL also has OR, right? So it's basically giving a result for this, but it's also giving a result for this one because we are separating them with this OR. And now you are just trying to fetch all the issues from your Jira with priority equals low, right? And you're actually getting issues from all projects because you didn't specify it in this OR, after this OR, the project and the issue type, in order to narrow it down to like less issues that you actually want, right? So now this JQL, it's so complex that it will trigger fetching all the issues from your Jira with this priority low, which is bad, right? But why is bad? It's bad because it doesn't prioritize with using like the, when you're using the OR operator, it doesn't prioritize with the parentheses, right? Because now like the JQL cannot understand that this is one block of that JQL and this is one block because you used OR here. Like here is AND, here is OR, right? So we have the bottom example that this is like explaining the issue with the above one, right? And why it's important for you to put this parenthesis, because you are giving this JQL like a prompt search filter that it needs to find first here the project Scrum and issue type story, or priority equals low. And in other words, it's actually explaining here any issue from Scrum project from the story type and any issue from any project in the entire Jira instance which priority is low, right? And now you're going in the rabbit hole where that user that cannot see the complete sprint button doesn't have access to all the projects in your Jira for that managed sprints permission, right? And it's like impossible to give like one user all permissions in all projects, right? You should not do that, right? And this is like an important permission. It's not like browse permissions where the user only can view that project or all projects in your Jira, right? So what you need to do here is basically fix this JQL in order for the user to see that button, right? Because this doesn't come up with, it's actually like a half and half, right? Like 50% is the permission, 50% is the complexity of the board, because like this is like a domino effect. Like you have the filter is so complex that it goes in all projects in Jira, and then because the user doesn't have all the permissions in all projects in your Jira, then they cannot see this button, right? So this is like the fourth step that you need to actually check to see if the JQL filter that is attached to that board has this complexity, and it cannot actually like fetch all the issues, or it's actually fetching all the issues from your Jira. Then it's again a permission issue, but you should not have all the projects fetched in one board. So that was the fourth step that you need to actually troubleshoot in this matter. So the next step that you want to do is not basically like a step of troubleshooting. At this end of 4 steps, you actually need to see if this core issue is actually maybe a bug in your case, or maybe it's like a super corner case that I'm not aware or I haven't like met before, and you actually need to reach to Atlassian team for support, right? Because as you can see here on my screen, I have a ticket where people are suggesting that duplicate sprint name causes multiple issues with teams, but this is actually an issue that can lead to users not being able to see a complete sprint button, right? Because having this situation with duplicate names, it confuses. I don't know if it's a confusion in database. I don't know what's happening there, but I've seen issues where this exact issue caused the complete start sprint buttons not be able to be shown to that user, right? So you may actually check if that's the case with your case also. But if not, you need to raise a case with Atlassian, and they will help you in this matter, because you might have a corner case which is not part of these 4 steps that I mentioned previously, right? And as you can see, this suggestion is closed. Like I guess they have given a response, but they didn't actually do it anything with this, because this relates to, it's actually like again a suggestion, because that was linked to the other one. And again, this is suggestion that, yeah, duplicate sprint name creates conflict, right? So this is what I found in the meantime when I was like looking into issues with users related to this button, and I found this like issues with duplicate sprint names. You might have this issue, or you might not. Maybe it's a corner case if you didn't resolve it until now, but that was basically it for today. These are the steps, the troubleshooting steps in this like super known issue. If you try to search it online, there are like a bunch of answers like on this, but these are the most common ones that you need to include, which is based on permissions and the JQL filter. But basically that was it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, just hit the like button. A subscribe will also help, and don't forget that I also have a Discord channel with a small community there, where you can ask questions if you need any help with anything from Atlassian ecosystem. And I also have a GitHub repository, which I also add there, like script runner templates for you to actually get from there for free. And yeah, that was it for today. Just smash the like button if you like it, and until the next one, peace.